Hi friends, this is DaintyTank. Thank you for joining me again to the testimony of Trixie Glimmer Smith. So, the testimony of Trixie Glimmer Smith, this is part 4 of the series, Poke the Totoro, up in the upper left-hand iCard to kind of follow along with the series. Hopefully you are. This is actually a very interesting series. Also, I'm wearing a muscle tank because it's 90 degrees in here and it's just insane. So I was like, frick it, I'm gonna wear a muscle tee, I don't really care. Although, it does have Hogwarts, so obligatory, trans people are valid, FJK. Not all wizards are good. Alright, with that being said, let's get jumping in here and have some fun. Load. Last time we left off, there was a really creepy incident where Trixie let her mask come off and shown to whoever was in that little thing. Oh God, it kind of blew my mind. I realized when I was editing it that there was the circlet that they mentioned with the sapphire on it for the crown circlet. I was sitting there like, wait, didn't the Magnificent Magpie have that? The peck marks, deep peck marks on the matted wool and the feathers in the abandoned house all kind of just come together. It's so creepy. I don't know what this is, but we got back home. And from there, we'll keep going. Alright. According to Poppygon.com, Cyber Dracula's from Mars was getting a reboot, so that was cool. I'm betting... so this is dating me. So there used to be Biker Mice from Mars. I'm not kidding you, that was a show. Biker Mice from Mars. Biker Mice from Mars. Like, it was a big thing. And one of my favorite things I ever got was this ball that had the Biker Mice from Mars on it. And they were just these awesome, badass mice with like little antennas. And they had motorcycles that could fly. Like, it was insane. I'm betting that's kind of the same thought there. Cyber Dracula, yes, from Mars, probably. Cyberbat Razor had a new design, somehow even hotter than the old one. Irrelevant. Sorry again. That was some pretty exciting news, but pretty soon, that night took a turn for the worse. I'd been worrying about the matted figure all night, but I was pretty sure they hadn't followed me and Heidi to uni. Her bike was pretty fast. Besides, I was in a busy accommodation block. They would have to be pretty brave to follow me here. I calmed down a bit after eating some snacks. Things were going to be okay, I foolishly thought. Uh-oh. Eventually, I managed to get to sleep. Only to be immediately woken up by knocking on my door. If it was Nikita, she'd been shouting abuse at me by now, so who was it? The matted figure? Trixie! This is important! We need to talk! It's about the King in Yellow! My blood froze. I'd completely forgotten to check upon Nikita, and by the sound of it, she'd deteriorated somewhat. I shouted a mess of words at her, my half asleep mouth barely functioning. The knocking stopped. I managed to get my clothes on and open the door. Hi! Trixie! Sit with me. She took a seat on my bed, the King in Yellow clutched in her hands. I was taken back. Nikita always looked faintly repulsed by my hygiene. She would never normally consider touching any of my stuff. Nikita, are you okay? Trixie, shut up. I'm fine. Now sit down and listen to me. I already told you this is important. She didn't look fine. She looked even worse than last time I saw her. I nervously sat down. My eyes were drawn to the closed play. It was only a book, but it seemed to suck the air out of her room. I felt cold, confused, scared. Trixie, I finished reading it. It says so much. I can't. You need to read it for yourself to understand. It's just so... I can't explain. My head is a maelstrom. But Trixie, my point is, I'm in this play. Or, I mean, I can tell it's supposed to be me. Trixie, I am the heir to the broken throne. What? I am the heir to Carcosa. Oh, Carcosa is what, the skulls were saying. I was dumbstruck. What was Nikita on about? She was a character in some old play? The heir to a fictional city? Oh, Carcosa is a fictional city. Okay. It was madness. Nikita, I think you need sleep. You're not making any sense. How about you wait here and I go... Trixie, this is not going to get me sectioned. Oh, sorry. Words. You are not going to get me sectioned. Don't you dare accuse me of being sick or mad or... We both know I'm smarter than you, so shut up and listen to me. Her eyes bore into me with general malice. She was scaring me. Okay, we're gonna save that. Okay, apologize and let her continue or press the issue. Let's let her continue. Okay. I'm sorry, Nikita. I'll listen. She stood up, pacing for a moment, the book still in her hands. Eventually, she stood over me, trying to look tall. I leaned back a little, hoping if she got what she wanted, she would just calm down a little. I am the heir to Carcosa, Trixie. At first, I didn't believe it, but all the signs are there. I've got this. I've had it since I was born. She pointed at the white freckles on her face. You recognize them, right? The Hades, the constellation, the eternal prison of Carcosa. They're just dots to me. Gazed at Nikita's face. It was hard to be sure, but her markings were definitely familiar. I'd seen them before, in a vision of Carcosa that night in my dreams. I see it. I mean, it's hard to tell. I don't know much about stars. That seemed to placate Nikita somewhat, but she still seemed pretty unhappy with my lack of certainty. Look, Trixie, just read the play. It's not just the markings, there's so much. Nikita dragged my desk over to the bed. It screeched across the floor, but I didn't want to stop her. She sat down next to me and placed the King in Yellow on the desk. Read, please. You don't understand. You'll understand. I looked down at the play. Ever since I'd first laid eyes on that book, the book had been at the back of my mind. I wanted to read it. I carefully reached out and ran my hand across the cover. It was cold. Open it, Trixie. We don't have forever. Whoa! I'm familiar with that symbol. It was everywhere in the abandoned house. And it was carved into the wood with Parsnip, and there's only one option here. Okay. I mean, not like I need to save that, but I'm saving it. A lot of time passed. Initially, I was disinterested. Nikita had obviously been skimping on sleep. A play written over a century ago did not reference her. It could not. Strangely, I remember little of nothing of the play's contents. It seemed to pass through my mind like wind. But while I remember little in my mind, I see the black stars hanging in the sky, rolling clouds, breaking against the dreaded galleys of the Imperial Navy, and the terrible remains of the broken throne. When Nikita saw me finish Act 1, she spoke for the first time since we had opened the play. Do you see it yet? Oh, it's dark outside now. Do you see me? No, Nikita, there's never even any mention of an heir, or you, or anything. It's just, oh geez, I can't know how to describe it. What is this? What are you saying? You can't see me? You can't read. Give it back. And then she wrestled me for the book. My desk toppled over in the struggle. I was to play. It was mine now. I needed to play. It was mine now. Give it to me, Nikita. I realized I'd let go to shout at her. I quickly grabbed it again. But it was too late. Nikita shoved me and I tumbled to the floor. As I fell through the air, I caught a glimpse of the first line of the second act. In that moment, I saw only a blur of ink scrawled in the yellow page. I'm not even sure I truly read it, but it left an imprint on my mind, nevertheless. More than anything else that happened in the next few days, no matter how bad it got, nothing compared to this. If I could destroy all memories of this year, my new friends, my education, even my transition, I would. From the opening of the second act of The King in Yellow was terrible, unlike anything unimaginable. I hit the ground with a thud, my head spun and my vision blurred. A feeling of dread, the likes of which I had never known, hit me like a gunshot. My head felt light as I raised my hands to indicate the surrender. They shook as if I was about to faint. What I read in the book stays with me even to this day, and I have no intention to repeat it here, lest rereading it brings me new, more terrible insights. That line changed everything. Nikita was right. The broken throne belonged to her. You believe me now, don't you, Trixie? Never doubt me again! Oh no. I saw Nikita grab a sharp knife off my desk. Why did you have that on your desk? It wasn't super sharp, but I had no intention of finding out whether it could cut skin, and shuffled across the floor away from Nikita. Now get out! Get out of here! This her room! Nikita, you get out! Should never have let you read this. You don't deserve it. But this is my room. A small semblance of normality returned to Nikita's face. She seemed to have snapped out of her fury. I need to use this chance to calm her down. Ooh, okay. Okay, we can do this. We can do this. We can do this. Okay, coursework doesn't matter. Student election, she's all but forgotten that. I was wrong and tried to calm her down. I saved, right? Yeah. I'm thinking broke down and cried. I don't know what to say. I just broke down in tears. Saw my calling ink to this page, Trixie. Whether you want to admit it or not, you know. Have always known where I was headed. To Carcosa, to the Broken Throne! My head hurt from the mention of the Forsaken City. Surely Nikita couldn't truly intend to sit upon his throne. Look, Trixie, you had your chance to join me, as my underling. But it's clear that the decay of the world, its silly parties, and fun have ruined you. You could have shined as bright as the twin suns. Disappointing. She took off running from my room. I almost want to go back and see what would happen if I went the other way. I'm gonna do that. Don't mind me. I want to go this way. Nikita, I was wrong. Please just put away the weapon and calm down. You're scaring me. It was too late. Nikita seemed to convince I was her enemy. She glared at me, her eyes filled with anger, matched only by the cloud waves of Hallie. You saw my calling. Okay, so no matter what, it would have happened. Okay. To Carcosa, to the Broken Throne. Okay. Yep, ruined you. Disappointing. She took off running from my room with her playing the weapon. I was left alone on the floor, trembling mess. Scrambled for the door and managed to lock it, my heart thumping in my chest, as my mind tossed and turned like a dread fleet at anchor. I should have been more worried about Nikita. She was clearly a danger to herself and others. But all I could think about was the King in the Yellow. Ugh. I only remember parts of the night that followed. My head raced, almost nonstop. Every now and then, I'd fall asleep, only to wake up elsewhere in my room. On one occasion, I woke up in the middle of the university's courtyard, alone and cold, but thankfully clothed. I mean, that is very thankfully clothed, yeah. How I'd gotten through the security on the front desk, I don't know. At some point, my phone buzzed. Nikita was messaging me. Why didn't you believe me, Trixie? You had the chance to serve me at the foot of the Broken Throne and rule the City of Decay. Why did you not Why did you have to ruin it? The king's tattered hand will guide me, and me alone, through the path you made for me. The twin skulls will guide me to the twin suns, the night that never ends until the pale moon under the black stars and the bleeding sky. This is what I was meant to be. Always I was meant to be the ruler I was meant to be. Do not be scared, Trixie. You know this is right. You know this is the way things are supposed to be. You know I am kind. I will not allow the king to harm you when the gate opens. I promise. Oh, that's a lot. Okay, so it's got her in her head. Continued in a manner for a long time, maybe hundreds of messages from Nikita, all completely incomprehensible. Hundreds! Shoosh! She seemed set on sitting upon the broken throne underneath the rotten spire of Carcosa. Nikita had a weapon. She was unstoppable. I thought about how she had spoken earlier that night. It scared me. I didn't help but who would believe me? I didn't want to burden Heidi with it. She had enough on her plate already, thanks to me. There was police. I didn't like them, but maybe they were my only hope. We can phone the police at this point because she is a danger. But honestly, pausing. If someone is having a mental problem or a break like that, it is never good to introduce the police because the police, of course, escalate situations because they bring armed force to a situation. That being said, I am being presented with these options. If we had some other way, like guidance counselors or someone else we can reach out to alert, that would be good. However, she is armed, so I'm not going to not do anything. I think I saved. Did I save? I did save. I knew I had to try. I dialed the police. Hey, I'd like to report a dangerous deer at my university. Wait, who is this? Check the number. It was definitely the police, so why were they whispering? I strained my ears trying to pick out the words, but all I could hear was faint murmuring. Hey, look, I'm trying to report an incident, so shut up. I know you guys are a bunch of homophobic bootleakers, but at least try to do your job right, okay? Hello? For heck's sake. More murmuring. At first I thought my attempt at a feminine voice was being mocked, but then I heard the word Carcosa and my blood chilled. The police were compromised. Ho ho! I disconnected the call. This was hopeless. Nikita had somehow gotten the police in on this against me. Sorry, I went quiet because I just was sitting there like spinning my gears going, how could she have gotten the police? I don't think she could have. There's no way. Which makes me think, is Trixie affected? Because she read the King in Yellow. Is everything that she's hearing now based on the King in Yellow? And so her interactions with the world are more in a psychosis state, and thus it's compromised. I love things like this, where it's like you can theorize while you're going through it, like, why is this happening? What could possibly be causing this? Alright, I'm gonna deal with this alone. The most distinct terrifying moment I recall was at about 4 a.m. I was laying awake when I noticed a figure stood at my door, tall, robed, and stood perfectly still. I held my breath and shut my eyes. Don't know how long they were shut, but eventually I opened them again. My breathing was ragged as I focused. There was no one there. Because they were in your room? I of course realized in the morning I was freaking out over my dressing gown. Eventually I made some amount of restful sleep. An hour or two at most. When I awoke, I could remember what happened with Nikita all too well. I could remember reading The King in Yellow. but after that, nothing. Parts of it seemed to be a dream, or my imagination, or something worse. There was no wall between reality and madness. I couldn't trust anything. But I knew Nikita was dangerous. I knew she was headed to the Broken Throne. Quite what I meant I didn't know, but I had to stop her. If Nikita unlocked the white gate of Haley and walked through, what could walk back out? Ooh. Despite my fatigue, I somehow remembered that I needed to change my estrogen patch today. Estrogen patch? Desperate to retain some degree of normalcy, I decided to get up on top of that. I've been skimping on my anti-androgen tablets too. No wonder I was a mess. My hormones were all over the place. Oh! Is Trixie trans? That's why I'm guessing. With estrogen patch and then, I don't know exactly those tablets. But anti, of course, means suppressing. So it's probably a hormone suppressant and then a estrogen to kind of help with that transition. Forgive me, trans people who are watching this. I never had to deal with these issues because I was cis, and so I was very fortunate. But that was a wrong word to say. I'm sorry. I apologize. I was very fortunate. It's more of I identify as cis. It's easier for me in that I never had to learn this world, and so it's something for me to notice. I had no idea. That's awesome. I love all of the representation of that. Between Gregg being they, them, and now that we know Trixie is potentially trans, or at least going through hormone therapy, that's cool. And there's just so many lesbians in this town. We don't know if they're specifically lesbian, but, so many queer folk. All of the queer folk. So good. Down one, hoping to keep my testosterone in check. Got it. Could have just kept reading. I would fix things. Dark thoughts still swirling in my head. I managed to stagger over to my bathroom mirror. As usual, the edges of my patch were coated in gray gunk. Gross. I peeled the sticky patch off. And as usual, I looked horrible. I needed a hot shower. Maybe I could wash away the storm of thoughts in my mind, along with the gross eye gunk clinging to my face. The hot water made me feel a lot better. It was nice to just curl up and rest for a while. After the shower, I slapped on a new patch on my ear. You're meant to put them below the waist, but I don't want to shave an area for it, so I'm assuming it'll be fine. I haven't died yet. I'd gotten a text from Cops, the local pizza takeaway. Apparently they'd been blacklisting me for prank calling them. I blinked, bemused, but I had no idea what this was about. Okay, so she was basically thinking she was calling the police, and what was really happening was a kind of psychosis event in which she was going through and calling this pizzeria again and again, thinking it's the cops, but it's not. And she's probably the one who mentioned Carcosa. Oh, so compromised. That's so awesome. Had Nikita framed me? She seemed a little beyond sabotaging my pizza reputation when she was waving a weapon at me. Don't mind me. I figured it was a mistake and left it. Their pizza was overpriced anyway. By the time I was ready to face the world, it was already pretty late. I needed to do something. After last night, the last thing I wanted was to be trapped inside of my mind all day. Heidi probably didn't want me to come down until after 5 as usual, so I'd shoot her a message and check. She phoned back. Hey, I said I don't do messages. I like to be able to shout. She grinned scarily. I didn't know how I knew that through the phone. There wasn't any funny business last night, right? After you got home? I thought it would be best not to bring up the King in Yellow, Nikita, or any of the events from last night. No, it was fine, basically. Fine. Basically, you don't sound too sure, Trixie. No, I'm okay. I just, I spilt juice on myself and got sticky. It was wild. A real tragedy. I'm really clean now, though. Like a baby. Like a baby? I don't know what that was even meant. It sounds terrible. Hope you're doing okay now, though. I was glad my anxiety of using phones was overriding my fear. It didn't want to put all of that stuff with Nikita on Heidi, not even when we were already dealing with the matted finger. I'm fine. I'll come down at like 4-ish? Yeah? Sure. I'll be using a broom to get the crow that lives in the vending machine out all afternoon. They've been pretty loud recently. I'm sick of it. So it's a crow that lives in the vending machine. See you later. Beesh. Wait, what was that? The line went dead. I sat online for a while, desperate not to think too hard about last night. Eventually I ended up at Heidi's. That was quick. Whew. There were a lot of black feathers lying about, signs of an ancient battle between Crow and Heidi and Hyena. Hey Trixie, you got here just in time to help me clean up the remains of the cozy, calm Crow. Not that the name suited them, the violent guy. She nursed some peck marks on her face. Wait, remains? You didn't kill them, right? Heidi flashed her teeth at me. I love the music change there. No, of course not. We just had a disagreement, and they got their feathers all ruffled. They meant to be shop security. I didn't let them eat vending machine snacks all day in return for nothing. They weren't exactly much help last night. They can move back in once they promise to peck the eyes out of my enemies. Come on, help me clean this up. He spent the next half an hour picking up entire birds worth of feathers. The cozy calm Crow was lucky it was so warm out. Nice work, Trixie. Ready to get some actual work now? Yeah, I guess. More sorting through ancient treasures? Arty junk would be more accurate. None of this is actual real, remember? Hope for Heidi's sake this stuff wasn't real, but after reading The King in Yellow, I wasn't so sure I believed her. So, about last night? I'm kind of thinking it was a one-off. I gave that creep a pretty nasty seeing, too, with the taser, right? I don't think we have to worry about them. We were just kind of freaked out last night and got worked up. Weirdo was probably just some junkie, you know? We can keep an eye out, but I think we're fine. I wasn't entirely sure I believed that, but I trusted Heidi's judgment. She'd been in the business longer than me. Oh, sure, that makes sense, I guess. I still couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the matted figure than just a weirdo and drugs. Come on, Heidi. Come on, Trixie. Let's get to work. We got sorting. I remain amazed by quite how much stuff Heidi had hoarded. But if she could sell each thing for as much as the matted figure had handed me yesterday, I didn't blame her. Where do you actually get this stuff from? The magic car boot stale? I have a supplier. Secret one. You won't meet them. I buy crap from them, and then I sell it on. Think of them like a weirdo wholesaler. Considered asking if Heidi could get a hold of some kind of Nikita charming amulet. Decided I didn't want to go into all of that. Sorry for a while. Heidi kept checking the time. I think she could tell I noticed and felt the need to explain. I have Moonbeam business to attend to tonight. Some loser wants a book called Where the Strange Things Are by Ilaria Delavranibor or some crap. Moonbeam business? Are you sure that's a good idea after last night? It'll be fine. I can look after myself. Bad timing, really. Belle's been trying to get me to the bar tonight. Seems pretty desperate for contact whenever I've seen her recently. I told her I have to go apologize to the CEO of Crowbar Inc. after sending the corporation some arson threats. She believed it. That's interesting line. Hey, that was all true, except the bit about the apology. Of course it was. The corporation took out a restraining order on me instead. I just needed an excuse to not be able to go out tonight, you know? As we sorted through Heidi's stock, I noticed her mask on the desk. When I'd seen it before, I hadn't thought much of it. Perhaps the alcohol had distracted me, but looking at it now, the mask was faintly ominous. The fur on the back of my neck stood on end, and memories of the masquerade in the Imperial Palace floated through my mind. Memories of Casilda. Where'd you get the mask from, Heidi? It looks really expensive. Heidi looked at me quizzically. Haha. No, I made it myself in an afternoon. Smashed up some plates, glued it to an old mask from my theater days, and sprinkled some sequins on it. Looks freaking stupid, sure, but at night with hood, it's vaguely spooky. It stops the kind of weirdos who buy my stuff from recognizing me, so it does the job fine. Oh. I wasn't sure I believed that. I could see the guilt on Heidi's face. She was lying. Didn't want to push her on it, but something about the mask remained deeply troubling. From its ruby eye, I could see 1,000 reflections of a Carcosa. Heidi's phone rang. She pushed me out of the office and stepped into the shop. Sorry, Trixie. Secret phone call. Door slammed behind me. I tapped my fingers on the desk until Heidi re-emerged a few minutes later. Okay, so my supplier is totally hecking me. Good for you? No, not like that. They've rescheduled our meeting again. I need to go meet them tonight, but I already have that other meeting to attend to. What? Are you sure this isn't like a trick? Nah, my supplier is just useless. Such a floozy. Would that be LaRose? Potentially? Probably not Parsnip, but maybe LaRose? I don't know. Just speculating now. Look, would you be able to be... Oh, I see a screenshot. Nice. Alright. Look, would you be able to be okay with, like, going out and making the sale for me? Can't I meet the supplier instead? Last time I tried to make a sale for you, it didn't go so great. My supplier is very secretive. They wouldn't show if I wasn't there. Look, I feel really bad asking you to do this after last night, but, it'd be really hard to rearrange meeting my supplier. I'll get you the taser. I'll give you the taser and the bat. And if anything seems off, you just get out of there, right? Sure. It's okay, though. I'm sure I'll be fine. You showed that weirdo who was boss when you broke their arm and set fire to them, right? They won't heck with Delilah Moonbeam again. Waiting in the same spot as yesterday, shivering in the cold night air as I held another wrapped book in my hands. Quickly checked my phone, which I admit broke character a little. Whoever I was meeting was late. Considering leaving when a shadow appeared at the end of the alley. I'm sorry. I can't. Gregg, we gave you that box. And your eyes are adorable. They clearly weren't the figure from yesterday. They were probably about half their height and wore a cardboard box on the head with what I hazard to call a scary face drawn on it. They approached me nervously. Hello, I am Delilah Moonbeam. Woo. I screamed as the disguised figure leapt at me, taking me by surprise. I fell against the cold floor and blacked out. I must have woken up a few minutes later. Fortunately, I didn't seem too badly hurt. In fact, I was pretty certain I just fell asleep because I was tired. Delilah's hood was surprisingly pillow-like. The alley was deserted, but the book was gone. I knew I must have had some kind of lackey from that matted figure. Who knew how many more were out there that might try to hurt me? I had to get back to Heidi now. I could only hope she was already back from her meeting. Spraying through the dark streets, they seemed deserted until I ran up against a group of cloak-wearing strangers, their dark hoods hiding their faces. I screamed. They had been sent by the matted figure. I knew it. I shoved one of them, my weak little arms doing little to push them. I turned, I fled, the way I had come. I'd need to take a longer route, shake them off my tail. It'd been a long while before I realized I wasn't being pursued. I kept running anyway. I had no idea how. Using my legs stopped working after about 5 meters. But not this time. I was terrified. I just needed to get back. Burst through the shop door. Heidi was already there, replacing the use-by dates on some tinned food with new stickers. Heidi! Jeez, Trixie, are you okay? Where were you? You should have been back ages ago. I had to catch my breath. I was chased. I had to lose the chasers. You were... What? Trixie, what happened? Look, just get changed. I'll keep an eye out. Shakily got out of the outfit in the office and returned to Heidi, somewhat calmer. I was attacked. Again. The person I met, they jumped me. They must have been sent by our new friend. Oh, man. Heidi paced around the room, stopped briefly to beat up a box of pineapple snapples out of sheer anger. And you're sure it was them, or one of their helpers, or whatever? I only now consider that there wasn't actually any proof it was one of the matted figure's helpers. Well, no, I'm not sure. I just assumed, has this happened before? Never, twice in a row. You're right, this is weird. It must be related. Heck's sake. She continued pacing. I was too shaken to speak. This is getting out of hand. I'm not dealing with this anymore. Right, I'm going to implement Eclipse Contingency. I am torching any crap that doesn't look valuable, and moving the rest somewhere safe so they can lay that low. I notice Heidi seems to use anything as an excuse to torch stuff. I'll pack this stuff up and burn it tomorrow. Want to lift back to your place again? I did. I needed to get some sleep. So I started doing something about Nikita, but I was way too tired. Hopefully my exhaustion would stop me from thinking too hard about the matted figure. The king in yellow. That night I dreamt of the basement on Daffodil Lane. I was crumpled on the floor, blood stained on the floor on my side and covered my hands. Through blurry eyes, I could make out Nikita. She was saying something to me, but her voice was too muffled and distorted to make out. She seemed smug, so no change there. After a seemingly endless monologue, she threw her hands skywards, and with a flash of light and a splash of cold cloud spray, a white gate opened at the far end of the room. The white gate of Carcosa. I shivered as the chill rolled off of Lake Halley. After giving me a last pitiful look, Nikita stepped through the gate, leaving me alone in the cold basement. For a moment, nothing happened. A strange calm came over me. This wonderful solitude was cut short. For from the white gate emerged the cloaked visage of the king in yellow. Their tattered rags billowed in the increasing wind, floating like the tentacles of some strange, deep sea creature. They stared ahead, before peering down at me, a slow turn of their head, looking right at me, right into me. I blacked out, and when I woke up, I found myself elsewhere. Me and Heidi were hiding in her shop. I wasn't sure why at first, but as I peeked above one of the displays, I saw objects shift and move around the room, a golden mist surrounding them. On the floor bled what seemed to be a cloaked corpse. It took me a minute to recognize the shape of the matted figure. I ducked as a wrench was tossed through the air towards me by the malevolent force that had taken over the shop. I went to say something to Heidi, but before I could open my mouth, she was yanked from her hiding place by some unseen hand and pulled into the shop. I yelled and foolishly ran out of my hiding place straight into the matted figure. The matted figure lifted their hood, and I closed my eyes. I had no intention of looking upon their impossible face again. Silence. I opened my eyes. I stood in a frozen plain dotted with sheep. It seemed to stretch for miles. The far distance, across leagues of cold snow, stood a great city, its architecture alien and cubic. Alien yet cubic. All I can see is just like boxes with like a little UFO perched on top. At first I feared. I looked up Carcosa, but the peaceful sheep and calm weather told me otherwise. Deep in Siberia, I looked upon the legendary city of the star gods. I took a step forward, and the sheep crumbled to ash. With a roar, the ground below me uprooted as the earth erupted outwards. I fell to the side as dirt rained down on me. In the distance, the city erupted into a mass of ash, magma, and earth. Shockwave ripped the ground apart and drew closer and closer. Debris and death plumed hundreds of miles into the sky, the birth of the Dark Age. Whoa! I plunged back into consciousness and awake, screaming and shaking. My eyes darted about my room. I was alone. Everything was as it should be. I was as exhausted as ever, as was my life now. After last night's dream, I was more intent than ever to simply let my problems slip from my mind. Okay. I am actually going to stop it here. And save that. Alright. Thank you guys for coming back and hanging out. I always enjoy doing more of these, and this is getting intense. Also, that was totally Gregg. Why Gregg? They make no sense. Like, it was an adorable box that they made, but why? Also, yay! Trixie's trans. That's great. Beyond that, I have no idea where this story is going, how it's going along. It makes no sense, and I love it so much. Hopefully you are too, because, like, this is, to me, a lot of fun. Alright, with that being said, I'm gonna leave it here. I'll see you next time. I love you all. Stay safe. Bye!